views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting groups. If you'd like to produce a show, call us at 260-421-1250.
Let me be your lighthouse so I can show you the way. Let me be your shining light, I'll keep you from drifting away. I'm the one that makes you try when...
This is Patty Hunter of Patty's Page, welcoming you to our interview with Frank Mills. He was born in Canada. Now he's living where?
Living in the state of Vermont.
Vermont. Oh, wow. So you were born and raised in Montreal?
I was, yes, in town of Mount Royal. And it was a lovely place to grow up, I have to admit. We had new schools. It was a new town. Everything was new. So it was very pleasant. And my folks provided just about everything a kid could ask for. So, yes, I was blessed.
Do you know the area Dorval?
Very well. I lived in Dorval for a year or two.
My dad was born around that area and was raised there. You know.
Sure, yeah.
While growing up, who had influenced you the most?
I think my mother. She was a piano player and a very good one. My father was what you sometimes call an Irish tenor.
Irish.
And, yeah, I think it had a lot to do with whiskey more than his, you know.
Hey, we got a character here. We got a character. I like
this. Yeah. He used to sing at parties. That's when he sang his best. But as the night went on, he got worse, but he never admitted it.
Did he ever professionally do singing or?
No, neither my mother nor father were professional. Although my mom played piano well enough, she could have done some things, I think, but she was more, Dad was interested in music, ironically, in the classics. He was a great classical buff. And my mother was, as a piano player, liked the piano music. So she didn't gravitate so much to classics, but the classic thing really influenced me. And being a young kid, I always remember watching the Lone Ranger gallop out to the William Tell Overture, which I didn't know it was the William Tell Overture until I researched it. This was when I was about 10 years old. And wow. I said to my dad, gosh, I've got to find that piece of music. I absolutely love it. And he was really good for me in terms of making me listen. Well, he didn't make me. I never had to be made to do anything musically. I loved music. Started at 3 years old playing the piano. And ironically, for the first few years, my piano was really used as a garage to store my toys. My favorite toys underneath it were tractors and brush hogs and hay ricks and hay cutters. And I was a real little farmer at 5 years of age. I didn't know I'd end up with one. But anyway, it was here we are in Vermont on a farm in Stowe. So,
what kind of farm you got?
Well, it's just, I guess you'd call it, I never like to say it, a gentleman's farm, supposedly. Although we have 9 cows and we have nice gardens and we grow our vegetables right now. That's about it for now. And we have lots of wild animals here. There's just everything you can name in Vermont. It's quite lovely. So turkeys are just getting big now. The little chicks are big and the ducks are flying. And yeah, it's a nice time of year.
Winter, I like to see.
Well,
snowbound.
Yeah, quite snowbound. Last year we had a wonderful winter. We stayed up north for the winter because of COVID, and was the first winter in 15 years not going south, which was where we usually go down to the Bahamas Islands for the winters. But we stayed here and enjoyed it. It was the first winter we were here for many years, and it was a lot of fun.
How old were you when you started your first musical instrument, and what was it?
Well, it was piano, and I was 7.
Mm-hmm.
And more or less several, my sister Kathy, she played clarinet, but she did start on piano. And her teacher said that she would prefer to take me on when I was 7 years old. So we started when I was 7, just for that reason, or no other. I was playing the piano from the time I was 3, as I said, but
Yeah.
morely got involved with it when I was 5. So it was always easy for me. It was something I always turned to. I just would sit down and play because I enjoyed it.
Were you self-taught, or they trained you, or?
Well, no, I had a teacher, Mrs. G. I remember her well. Mrs. G. And she had a ruler that she'd snap your knuckles if you weren't playing the right notes. So I got to like that after a while, and I was playing very well.
Like getting hit?
Yeah. And then when I was 12, I changed to a rather, she advised me to go get on with a more serious instructor. So Dr. Lewis took me on his resume, and I spent, I guess, 4 years with him before going into McGill University, where I spent 2 years out of 5 in music.
Ah, oui, McGill. My dad went there, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And what profession, what were you majoring in McGill again?
Well, I'm just about every faculty you could be in. I've had a record of being the student with the most faculties behind my name, but I started off in commerce, of all things. And then I went into science pre-medicine because I really felt that I lost my folks when I was about 16, so both to cancer. And I decided I think it was a bit altruistic, to be honest, but I decided that maybe medicine would be the right place for me to be. And also I was interested in surgery because I knew from a young age that my small motor and hand development was quite strong. It was one of my stronger points. So I gravitated towards medicine in that regard. But that didn't work out. I spent 3 years in science pre-med. And that was before you go into medical school at McGill. And then I ran into a thing called calculus, which I will never understand, and biochemistry, which I really didn't like. And I thought, if this is what medicine is all about, I don't think I really want to be a doctor. So that was the end of medicine. And I was on my way to join the Canadian Navy at the time because I really loved boating in the ocean. And yeah, exactly. And that was in Montreal. And I was on my way down to the recruiting office, which happened to walk by the music faculty on the way from being thrown out of the university by Dean Stansbury. He said, well, you're out here. We've given it 3 years of a good try, he said, but I can't renew your studentship. And as I walked down past the music faculty, an old friend named Bill Walker came down the stairs, and he said, I played trombone in the high school band and Bill played trumpet. And he said to me, what are you doing? And I said, well, I just got kicked out of pre-medical school, so I'm on my way to join the Navy. And he said, you can't do that. Get in here and come and meet my professor. So I went in, and the next was history. I passed the entrance exam with flying colors, and he wanted me in as a writer. I was in composition class for 2 years, and it was wonderful. At the end of 2 years, I decided, a lot like Burt Bacharach before me, that that was enough. I didn't really need too much more, which was a mistake. I wish I'd finished my degree. But I had 2 years of it, and I thought it was enough for the commercial industry, so I left. And I regret it to this day, but it did serve me well. So
it's never too late to learn.
No, that's true.
Never stop learning while you're.
That's true. Ironically, I got an honorary doctorate of music from it's called the Canada Conservatory last year, which was nice. And so I guess I didn't have to go to college to get my degree.
So your career path was laid out for you as soon as you went into music.
Well, it's a long story, like everything else in my life. My father was a businessman. And I remember when I told him I had my first gig as a musician professionally was in a high school sock hop band, which was put together by one of those friends of mine in high school. And I made $15 for playing the piano for a couple of hours at night, which was big money back then. And I said, Dad, I'm not mowing the grass for 25 cents anymore. I said, I'm going to play the piano for 15 bucks a night. And he laughed, but he was always very pragmatic. And he said, I love your music and I'm happy for you with it, but how are you going to make a living? That was his question. And that sort of stuck with me for a long time. Even after I got out of music school, I went into business for 4 years. And I decided that the 9 to 5, 5-day week was not for me. And had my own band for a while in university, which was great. Gosh, I even had my own sports car. I was making so much money on the weekends at university with my little dance band. And we were playing 4 or 5 nights a week.
What was his name? What was the name of the band?
Oh, just Frank Mills and the Boys.
Right. Oh.
Yeah. So anyhow, after being 4 years in business, I was in sales for 2 years with a company called Union Carbide, which is a huge organization. And I was sort of just testing the grounds for what it would be like to be in industry. And I rapidly discovered I didn't really like that. And then I went into industrial real estate at the suggestion of my boss from Union Carbide. And my objective here was to make enough money to write music for a year and not have to worry about my meal or my rent. And I managed to make enough money in 2 years in industrial real estate with a company called A.E. LePage, which is one of the biggest in Canada. And I went into music in 1969, much to the chagrin of my boss at A.E. LePage, because I was doing quite well. And Lorne Cook, I remember his name was. He said to me, well, I've never had anybody quit to go join a rock band, but that's exactly what happened.
I was 17.
Yeah.
And wow.
Yeah.
I'm almost near you, man.
So I joined my rock band in 1969. It was called the Bells. And never looked back. We had great success. I was with them for only 2 years, and we had a #1 hit called Stay a While, which I arranged and performed piano on it and harmonica. So that was fun. But there I was really an instrumentalist, a pianist, and getting involved with vocal hits. And that had a tremendous effect on me later on. But anyway.
You have a good voice. I listen to your music.
Oh, thank you very much.
Like an Irish tenor you are.
Oh, my Jesus.
Oh, my goodness.
So,
Faith and Begora.
Yeah, Faith and Begora is right. Anyway, the vocal thing was a conundrum for me, because when I joined the Bells, I was really into instrumental music, and I was into the studio thing, recording and playing piano in the studio. And so I decided to leave the Bells just after Stay a While went to #1.
Oh.
And most people looked at me and said, are you crazy? You just had a #1 hit. But I said, well, I've got other things I want to do. So I borrowed money from the bank and made my first instrumental album called 7 of My Songs. And on that was a funny piece of, well, I don't know. It was kind of a song about an old organ grinder and his monkey. And that went to #1 in Canada within 6 months after I left the Bells, which was embarrassing because they said, well, we've never heard you sing. And I said, nah, I'm not a singer. Don't worry about it. And so now that we had a conundrum, here's an instrumental artist who loves playing the piano and really not interested in becoming a singer at all, with a #1 hit in Canada called Love Me, Love Me, Love. And it made me a lot of money, which was nice. And I paid off my debts to make the album. And 7 of My Songs is still very dear to me. It's one of my favorite albums. It's basically instrumental. But so there you had a song called Love Me, Love Me, Love on an instrumental album, not sung. Then I go into the office of Frank Gould, the repertoire fellow at Polygram Records, who says to me, well, I like that instrumental song and the last cut on the B side. And he said, it's Love Me, Love Me, Love, I think you call it. Are there words to it? I said, yes. He said, well, sing it. So he put the instrumental record on in his office. And there I was singing my heart out to Love Me, Love Me, Love. He said, I love it. It's a hit. So we're going to record it right away. And within about a month, I'd recorded the vocal version of it. And again, to emphasize, so here I am, I'm a piano player who loves being in the studio and writing music. And now all of a sudden he's a top pop star, you know. What are we going to do with him? Oh, well, I don't know what you're going to do with me. I want to get back to writing music again. The heck with this singing stuff, you know. So as it happened, I wrestled with that. We did a vocal album after that, which was
What was that called?
One of the songs. Well, I think the album was actually called Reflections of My Childhood.
That's my favorite song
Is it really?
of the whole, well, not the whole CD, but I listened to that quite intently. So did my husband. We love that.
I think it's on the Frank Mills Story.
There are times when I have it, I like to reflect on the days of my childhood, when goodness knows when. The end of my world was the house on the corner, and the days kept on coming without any end. And the world was much better than I came to know it. The snow was much deeper and the trees reached the sky. Of the rich and the poor I was quite unaware, and the color of their skin was God's doing, not mine. Forget all I knew. Even God was forgotten with the passing of time. And the way I was raised and in what I believed, with a shrug of the shoulders, was left far behind. Still, I have to admit that whenever I'm troubled, if I'm worried about whether I'm right or I'm wrong, it's only the things that I learned as a child that keep telling me how my life should go on.
So, yeah. And I like it too. I think it was one of the better songs I wrote. But again, I just really wasn't too interested in singing and getting out in the public and doing concerts. That all came later as an instrumentalist. But I had those 2 albums, and then eventually a big company in Toronto decided they wanted to have a vocal album from me. So I wrote another album. It was called Look at Me Real. And it never went anywhere. It wasn't a success at all. And I finally tossed in the sponge and I said, no more vocals. I'm back to instrumentals. And the next album I wrote was the one with Music Box Dancer on it.
My faith, my friend, everybody who I mentioned that name around here in Fort Wayne. Yes, I know that. You're going to interview Frank Mills? Wow. But they love your music, man. Music,
Well,
man.
thank you.
Okay.
It
Music.
changed my life.
It did indeed. When was Music Box released? What year?
Interesting question.
Tell me
That
what-
first instrumental album I did was released in 1972. Excuse me, 74.
Right.
And it had 10 cuts on it. And I
Wow.
said to them, I want to do another cut. But we can't do that. You only do 10 on an album. I said, well, I need the extra 2 cents. Otherwise, I can't pay for it. Okay. So they put 11 cuts on that album. And it was called The Poet and I, that album, which is also where that song comes from. It's on that album. And so basically, The Poet and I was an instrumental album also. And there was a vocal on it called The Poet and I, but in an instrumental form. So I didn't sing on that album. So that takes me to one of the cuts, which happened to be Music Box Dancer on that album. It was the 11th cut on an album where you normally only have 10 cuts. And in 1974, we released it and the company went bankrupt.
Did
So-
you do that?
Pardon me?
Did you do that? They can go bankrupt. What did I do with you? Oh,
No, but I knew the vice president of Polydor very well, and he had started up a small company called Sonogram.
oh yeah.
And he was good enough to want to record me. So I went with the company, and unfortunately they didn't make it. But Guy gave me all the records back that I had, and I put them under my arm and went across Canada peddling them to the music stations. And that worked well. I got a lot of airplay, and people got to know my music.
Yeah.
So Music Box Dancer was one song on that album in 1974, and it sat in a drawer until 1978, when the whole thing changed. And
Oh, it
David
did.
Watts at CFRA radio station in Ottawa played Music Box Dancer just because he knew me from the bells. He said, I can't play the A side, which was The Poet and I, because it's just a lush ballad, and we don't play lush ballads on our rock station.
Oh.
So he said, I'm pushing my luck by playing Music Box Dancer, which is the B side of all things. And he played it and phoned me, and he said, are you sitting down? And I said, yeah, what's going on? He said, well, I've just waited an hour to get a phone line out of this radio station because we're jammed with people wanting to know who that little piano piece is and who wrote it and who's playing it. And he said, as far as I know, it's a mega hit. And within about 6 months, it was #1 in Canada.
What was the reason why you did Music Box Dancer?
I like to tell a story. To me, the song has to match the story, and the title has to match the song.
Right.
And I always tried to write happy music. At least a good portion of my albums
They are.
probably have 40 or 50% upbeat music, maybe more. And I've always tried to do that because there's enough sadness in the world. And it worked out well, I think, as a philosophy. Music Box Dancer, I remember when I played it for my kids, they were jumping around and dancing to it. I immediately knew there was something about this song that was a bit catchy, but that's as far as I would stick my neck out. You can predict hits for the rest of your life, and you'll be wrong 99.9%
There was a
of the
certain
time.
hook to it.
There was a hook to it, and the kids loved it.
Mhm.
And I thought to myself, well, what is it they see about this song? And then one of them said, well, it's so happy. We really like to dance to it. There was only 7 or 8 at the time. And Nancy, my daughter, she had a little music box, and she brought it to me coincidentally. And the arm, one of the arms of the little girl who popped up when you opened the lid and danced, one of the arms had broken off.
Oh,
And she said to me, Dad, will you, I didn't have a title, by the way, at this time. She said, Dad, will you fix my music box? So I was up in my studio looking at this music box dancer twirling around and wondering, now, there's something about this and the song I just wrote that the kids like. And I said, that's what she is. She's a music box dancer. And I said, wow, that's the title. And that's how it came about. So it wasn't so much inspiration as it was some methodical thinking and a little bit of luck, or a lot of luck.
I was going to say, we are going to cut away for a couple
Sure.
seconds to play Music Box Dancer. We shall return in a couple minutes. Thank you for writing that beautiful song. It's one of my favorites. It lightened up the spirit many moons ago when it first came out, and it felt good.
Well, you're not alone. There's a lot of people. I still get daily emails from people who all over the world like that song.
You said there's how many versions of there again of Music Box?
I've lost count. I don't
Lost
know.
count. Oh dear.
Yeah, and they keep cropping up with different approaches musically or electronically, or music has changed so much in the last 20 years because of the internet. and computers. For one reason or another, computers can be trouble for us elderly people, but
Oh, yeah.
we're stuck with them.
I was going to ask the royalties whenever it's being played in the radio or whatever, or whenever someone else does it, to pay tribute to your beautiful music. Do you get royalties of that?
I do. Copyright royalty is very
Right.
strong in North America, Canada, and the United States. And royalties before that becomes, it'd be 50 years after I die before that becomes public domain,
Oh,
which means that anybody can play it or record it or do what they want with it. But up until then, they can't. So the royalties from Music Box Dance is a bit like winning the lottery. I mean,
right.
it's been magnificent. And I remember I didn't have a penny to my name when I bought my first house and mortgaged to the hill. And the record company owed me a tremendous amount of money. And I phoned the president and I said, when do I expect to see some money from this hit that was about a year ago? He said, what, haven't you received your first check? I said, no. And he sent me a check and I bought the house with it.
Oh,
That was the end of that.
nice. I mean, they didn't give you all these. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, right. You got it.
Oh, you got it, Bonnie. Yeah.
The last one to be paid in the music business is the guy who makes it, writes it, and records it.
You had collaborators singing with you and writing with you your music, or just singing?
Well, what happened was that, Patty, after I got everybody turned on to instrumental music, it became obvious that that's where my heart was. And I ran into a guy named Jim Peary in Toronto.
Right.
And Hayward Parrott was a recording engineer, and Hayward and I worked together, have done for 30 years. And Jim Peary, nice guy, was what they call an arranger. Now, if you don't know what music is, it's the arranger is the guy who takes the orchestra and puts it to the song. So it's a complex, yes, happy days. It's a complex thing, but Jim Peary and I just seem to fit. So he always said, "Oh, I love your music. You always leave lots of holes for me to fill," which was the best compliment anyone could ever pay me as a musician. And so we stuck together for probably 10 years, and he did all the arranging on my albums. And he's a very talented fellow, was a very talented, died about 4 years ago, sadly. Yeah, he was so talented. Such
Our
a nice guy.
condolences.
Yeah. And I miss him, but we're not recording anymore, and I'm retired. So all things end quite happily.
When did you retire?
3 years ago.
3 years?
3 years. Yeah. I decided after my last tour, which is almost 4 years ago now, 2018, I did my last tour of Western Canada, Mid Canada, and Eastern Canada. And I decided that would be the end. I had got to the point where I'd been to just about every city in the country 10 times, and people were not coming to my concerts in the droves that they used to. And, yeah, it was time to retire. I enjoyed what I did. I had a great career. It's so quick, how quick you lose your notoriety in this world that keeps changing on a daily basis. And I have no regrets about it. It's just the way it is,
Yeah, younger generation. I hope they would start to get to love your music all over again.
Well, we'll find out. That could happen too. But I'm not complaining at all. It's been wonderful. It truly has. Way beyond what I ever expected. Maybe not quite as where I had hoped to go, but it's certainly more in all respects than I ever thought it would be.
You had a wild ride.
Yeah, tremendously. And I guess that last album, The Frank Mills Story, summed it up for me. When you listen to the story, what I've just told you makes a lot of sense musically. And as it goes through, it's obvious that my instrumental instincts took over. And although the last song that I ended up writing was a vocal, but
and what's it called? Lest We Forget?
Lest We Forget, yes. we share not only at McGill University and Montreal, but Dr. John McCrae, who wrote the poem In Flanders Fields and died in 1918 of pneumonia. He wrote the song. He actually lectured at McGill University, and there are a lot of commonalities between him and I in terms of where we've been. And I was in the local hospital just getting some normal routine maintenance done. And I saw a little plaque on the wall at the University of Vermont Medical Hospital. And the plaque said, Dr. McCrae, John McCrae, a Canadian surgeon who wrote the poem In Flanders Fields, worked at this hospital for 9 years. So I thought, well, now that's good. I'd always wanted to write a new version of music to the poem. Now, there are several versions of music to that poem. Most people don't know any of them because, in my opinion, most of them are unsingable. You don't want to sing them, even after 10 beers. You just don't want to sing them. So I put out two objectives. One, I was beginning to feel that I could write a better melody to the song. And that's up to the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Right. But the second thing was a curiosity factor of mine. And I began to realize that since there are no veterans of World War I left anymore, we're starting to forget. And a lot of the things that have transpired in the world, it's as if the World War I never took place. And I am very worried about this because even the veterans of World War II are thinning in number now. And we've lost track of those memories of those horrible events. And I decided that was the second reason why I wanted to try and do something for these men who have given their lives for our freedom. And
to honor them.
Yeah. And I just felt I was trying to, gosh, if I could get this song going, like it would become an identification to that, to November 11th in particular. And it's been mixed reviews. It's had mixed reviews and mixed acceptance among the public. I still think it's probably the best melody that's been written to the poem, as far as I remember my father singing at the piano. He would have loved this song. He would have got their second scotch and had a great time with it, you know. But it's a tribute, and it's the best. I just felt it was a nice way to end my career, and that one is copyright free. We recorded it, and any choirs, and I'm trying to get this message out, but I'm not doing very well at it.
Try.
Any choirs that want to sing this song, we recorded a full orchestral version of the background to it. So we will send you a copy, a Bluetooth copy, on an email, just an attachment of the orchestra. And you can sing along with it.
Like karaoke or something.
Just like karaoke, exactly. But this is a full orchestra. And there are 48 pieces in it. And I think it's a beautiful backup to the song. But it's free. For anybody who wants to record this song or do what they want with it, it's free. So it's a nonprofit that I'm doing, basically in the hopes that we can get this thing going.
I was wondering, the other songs that you have on your CD, the Frank Mills story.
Yeah.
I noticed that there are great singers with you. Rita McNeil.
Rita and I had known each other in Canadian music for all our careers. And my agent, Brian Edwards in Peterborough, suggested that if we wanted to really do a blockbuster tour of Down East, how would I like to join Rita and in her tour? And I said, well, I'd love to, but I'm not so sure about Rita. She's always been very nice to me, but there has to be a meshing of the minds when you go out on tour with somebody to do 12 concerts or 15 concerts in the Eastern provinces. So I flew down and met Rita. Brian and I flew down together for lunch one day in Halifax. And we met Rita, and she was just charming. I just fell in love with her instantly. And I said, well, you know, I can't wait to get recording with you and go out on tour with you, but I want to make sure that you feel somewhat the same way. She said, Mr. Mills, I can't wait. And I said, well, cut the Mr. Mills bit up. My name's Frank, Rita. We got to get to know each other. And that's how it happened. And the next thing I knew, we'd done 22 concerts together. I'd written a song for her. And yeah, it was just a good mix.
You did a Christmas CD with her?
Yes, we had a lot of fun doing Christmas shows together. It was a perfect match because she had such a great sense of humor too. We were doing, I think it was a Christmas carol that we had sung before several times, "Oh Holy Night." And it's a beautiful song. And I would introduce it by playing a few bars of melody on the piano, and then she would join me. And she was so polite and, as I said, humorous behind it all. For whatever reason, and I will never know to this day, probably just because she sang it in a different key than I used to play it in.
Oh.
And so I started off this song playing it in the key that I used to play it in. And so that led me with a great conundrum of what was Rita going to do? I'm in the wrong key, for she can't sing in this key. So I stopped.
You had an interesting time with that girl, eh?
Oh, yeah, exactly. So I stopped playing and I looked at her and she said, once again, she said, Mr. Mills, let's try that one in my key. And that was the end. That's all she said. She was so nice about it all. You know, she could have got really nasty and angry about it. But
I don't
instead
think
of that,
she was that type of woman.
she was not that type, didn't have an angry bone in her body.
That's a real Scots woman.
Yeah, she bailed me out.
So you were, when you were touring, it's just Canada, or did you go around the world, or?
I went around the world twice, and that was enough. I loved it, particularly in Japan. I really liked Japan.
Japan, everybody goes there.
Yeah, and New Zealand was lovely. Of course, New Zealand's just a mini Canada. It's very much like, it's got everything Canada's got, but you can do it in a day or two.
I know some people from Canada who live in New Zealand, eh?
Yeah.
Singers too.
Yeah, pretty country.
So you won any awards over the years for your music?
Endless awards over the years. However, there are 4 that are really dear to my heart. And the 3 Juno Awards that I got, the Junos are the Canadian equivalent of the Grammys.
Yes.
And I received 3 for composer, 2 for composer of the year, and 1 for an artist of the year. And the 2 composers are what really, that's what I love doing. And that's really how I earned my income in music, was by composing, by writing songs and writing music. And the 4th reason why I really am happy about the award I got was from, it's the Performance Rights Society of Canada, called SOCAN.
I know SOCAN.
And they gave me a very Crystal Award as being one of the top 10 songwriters in Canada. So that was a great honor for me. So between the 3, the 3 Junos and the SOCAN Award, they are my 3, I guess, biggest accolades I could ever receive as a writer. You know, it just blew me away when I got them. But then the gold record from America was nice too, and the award from BMI, which is the equivalent of SOCAN.
BMI, I'm with BMI.
Are you? Yeah. Well, I was a BMI writer, so they gave me a nice award in the United States for being a top writer.
Can you have SOCAN and BMI together, or you have to just?
Yeah, SOCAN's just Canada. It's just Canada.
But
and BMI is all over. BMI and ASCAP became one in Canada, which now called SOCAN. Yeah. You
have other songs that I love. Sunday Morning Sweet.
Yeah. That was written, that's from the album of the same title, Sunday Morning Sweet. It was written in Toronto. Now that would have been 1976, maybe. 78.
Classic music?
Yeah, it's a lot of classic influence in it. Well, I suppose my favorite classic composer of all is Bach. I mean, Bach and Beethoven, Rachmaninoff. Yeah, yeah. Bach and Bach, you know.
Okay.
How do you get any better?
And Rose Island Days. I love
Rose
that
Island
music.
Days is well loved by the people in the Bahama Islands because there is an island called Rose Island.
Is it?
And yeah, and when I went down in the winters, I moved to the Bahamas in 1980 for various reasons. Over the years, went to Rose Island, like Canadians go to the cottage for the weekend. Bahamians get in a boat and go to Rose Island for Sunday, at least for Sunday afternoon, cook out on the beach, family time. And there are hundreds of boats out on Rose Island, just frolicking in the most beautiful beaches and waters you could ever see. And Rose Island Days I was written down there when I was thinking of the Canadian winter. Perhaps I'd just been on a plane, got off from Montreal or Toronto, and I thought, oh gosh, it's nice to be in the sun. So I wrote Rose Island Days in the morning. It was just written, one of the fastest songs I've ever written in my life. And it was just obvious, you know, what I wanted to say was, it's all there. And then I met a wonderful guy in Toronto while we were recording named Laurie Bauer. And Laurie had a choir that did a lot of recording work, the Laurie Bauer Singers.
I heard of that name.
You've heard of him, sure. And he was a genius in the recording studio. I mean, I could say, Laurie, I need you to sing this song, Rose Island Days, you and the singers. There were 4 of them, 2 girls, 2 guys. And he'd say, oh yeah, that's fine. When do you want to do it? You know, well, let's do it next week. Okay, fine. And he was just such a wonderful guy. I miss him. He passed away, I guess, about 5 years ago, but wonderful talent. And he was a genius in the studio. You'd give him a song to record. He'd play it through once and then sing it. And he'd go, yeah, you do this. You do that. And I'll do this. Okay.
He's got the ear. The ear for it.
Okay, let's record it, he'd say. And I'd think to myself, you've only just heard it, you know. And they do it once, and he'd say, now, is that the feel? And I'd say, Laurie, it's a take. He said, no, we're going to do it perfectly next time. And he would. And there was a guy who was afflicted with a terrible stutter, but you put him in front of a microphone, and he'd never miss a beat.
So before you retired, you did put a special CD together, which is the Frank Mills story. So that's started from when you first started Musica, way in the back, way.
1969.
1969 up until 2018.
Yeah, that's it.
That's your story, your life story. That's good. And the other one that you sent me after the dancer was
right.
Beautiful.
Oh, you like that one?
Yeah, and that one, that Japanese music.
A song for Haruko. Well, that came out of Japan. In one of my tours to Japan, I met a nice fellow named Atsutaka Torio, and he was the vice president of Polydor Records in Japan.
Wow.
And he and his wife wined and dined me like I have never been treated before. The Japanese are very, very good at honor and friendship and all the good things in life that cost nothing. And he treated me so well. And I remember,
you?
Pardon me?
Did he spoil you?
Totally spoiled me. I'll never forget him. And that was, 1982, when I first went to Japan. Anyway, he introduced me to his wife. Her name was Haruko, which means spring in Japanese. And she was without a doubt one of the most beautiful women I have ever set eyes on. She was stunning. And she had that marvelous Japanese personality of being very polite and quiet and unassuming. And I never forgot her. And when I got back into...
like a cherry blossom.
Exactly. She was just like a cherry blossom. And I got back into America from there and wrote the song for Haruko. It didn't take me probably 20 minutes.
Wow. When did you move to Vermont?
Brenda and I have been married 20 years now.
Ah.
So I was single for about 15 years.
Ah.
And I never thought I'd probably marry again. And very strangely met Brenda down in the Bahama Islands. She was from Toronto and London, Ontario. And she was on vacation with some friends of mine. And these friends said, well, we'd like you to come for dinner. We've got somebody we want you to meet. So it was a total setup. And I said, oh, don't put me through this again, you know.
Blind date, blind date.
Blind date. We married for 20 years. And I said to her, you know, I've got really, my intention is to retire on a farm. And of course, there aren't many farms in the Bahamas like we know in the north. And so I had purchased a ski house here in 1983 in Stowe. And that's where we're doing the show from today. It's still in the same house. And when Brenda and I got married 20 years ago, I said, where would you like to live? Because songwriters can live anywhere. It's one of these things that you tell people. And they say, well, wait a minute. What do you mean you can live wherever you? Well, you can. If you're writing music, it's all in your head. So I wrote in the Bahamas. I wrote in Montreal. I wrote all over the world at times when I had time to do it. And so, yeah, we decided on the ski house at Stowe, which we turned into a farm. And that's where I am now. I'm loving every minute of it. As I said,
you do your own gardening, eh?
Do our own gardening. We have cows. That's the best thing. We have 9 cows, heifers. They're all heifers. Yeah. And little girls. And we get them in the spring. They're the cutest little things. They come off a big farm up the hill. And I made a deal with the owner there one time. He said, you know, you should have some cows. And I said, fine. You can bring them here in May and take them back in November. I said, it's a deal because we're going south for the winter and I'm not looking after the cows. And he said, that's a deal. Now that's been going on for probably 7 or 8 years. So that solved that problem. So yeah, we've got cows here. And then there's wild animals everywhere. We have a deer herd, and there's turkeys everywhere, and partridges and trout ponds. And it's just beautiful. It's absolutely, I'm very gifted. I knock myself out many days and say, well, you know, what did I do to deserve this?
Well, we are proud of you, sir.
Well, thank
you. I'll call you Frank.
Please do.
Hello.
Yeah, right.
Oh my goodness. So, what would you like to share with my audience to encourage them to live a good life and to, you know, if you have a talent, go for it?
I guess as far as the good life goes, to thine own self be true is one of them. Do unto others is another one. As far as music goes, I think young people play, and play. It doesn't matter who you're playing for. You want to fail as many times as you can so that you can get it right.
Yeah. Some people just say, I can't do it, and freeze up. You don't freeze up. You push the envelope.
Oh, I have written probably 500 songs.
Wow.
And probably 300 ended up in the wastepaper basket. Out of that, maybe I think I've recorded 220 songs, which is a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't think that more than 5 of them have made any significant amount of money as my job goes, you know. So yeah, it's been you can't accept no. You've just got to get on with it and believe in yourself.
So we're going to close off with Lest We Forget.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you.
You keep up the good work, kiddo.
Thank you.
Bob and I have been married for 30 years.
Oh, wonderful. Good for you. Yeah, good for you. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, sir. And sir, Frank, anyways, nice to meet you as well. I hope to see you again, eh?
I hope so. Eh?
I hope so. Well, yeah. I'm trying to keep my Canadian part of me still. We've been here 26 years in Canada, in the United States. So
lovely.
Don't want to lose it.
There you go.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
God bless.
You too.
And this is Patty Hunter of Patty's Page, thanking Mr. Frank Mills of Canada, who is now in the United States, for all the beautiful inspirational music and cheering us on with his singing and collaborating with the best of the best, Rita McNeil. So God bless, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Patty. Take care.
Yeah.
In Flanders fields, the poppies blow. Between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place. And in the sky, the lark still bravely singing in flight, scarce heard amid the guns below. The dead, short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from
Godspeed, my love, until we meet again. You're always in my heart and every dream. Don't let this time apart give in to all our fears. God will keep us close from up above. So until we meet again, Godspeed, my love. God is with us always.